2021 to the virtual 2021 Khorana Bose Scholars Commencement Ceremony for the 2020 Khorana Bose Scholars. It's a small virtual gathering, but in this small virtual gathering, there are powerful players. In this small virtual gathering, there are present powerful forces. No wizards or witches or Avengers or Black Panthers, but the forces here today have the most amazing power of all, to turn dreams into reality. They have the power to create something out of nothing. The forces here today envision better worlds, and they move mountains to try to bring those worlds into existence. Highly successful programs, such as the Khorana program, do not magically appear out of nowhere. So many amazing people, forces who care, must come together to give birth to programs such as this. And many of those amazing people who gave rise to and who support programs such as this are here and will be speaking to us today. Scholars, you are the glue that bring these amazing people together to do what they do, because they know that the world that so many of us dream of must be created by you, who will one day become a powerful force for good yourselves. We understand that due to unforeseen circumstances, many of you were unable to complete your internships. This in no way diminishes your capabilities and your future prospects. Remember, you were selected for the scholarship because of your ability to rise to challenges. With that, I will introduce our first speaker. He had challenges ahead of him. He was not a topper. He told bad jokes. Not only did he dream of a cure to cancer, but even more challenging, he dreamt of a peaceful world led by intelligent, knowledgeable leaders, preferably with a scientific background. Dr. Asim Ansari is currently the chair of the Department of Chemical Biology and Therapeutics at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Dr. Ansari, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what you were thinking when you imagined a student exchange program that later became the Khorana and the Bose programs.
Oops. Well, thank you for that introduction. And you know that, someone who really cares about you is speaking when they said that you were not a topper. Especially when they have seen your CV and they've seen that you were a topper. Anyway, so it's a pleasure. And we'll start with, the last point that Navita made, which is what got me started down this path. And what got me started was when I was your age, and such a pleasure to see you after almost a year and a half when we started this journey together, this particular batch of Khorana scholars, was when I was your age and I had a very inspired teacher, Chandran Vaman Rao, C.V. Rao, who sort of introduced us to the concept of doing science in these courses at that time in India, at Xavier's, where you had to memorize the textbook almost, right? So he took some time aside and started this honors course, one individual, and started to introduce to us papers by Gobind Khorana and others. So this is a chemistry and biology department, a new department. And he started introducing how some of the truths that we take to be self-evident in textbooks come about. And he went through how Khorana pieced DNA together, how that DNA was then shown to be just as effective in in functioning as an informational molecule in cells. The methods, the ambiguity, the trial and error. And it was, eye-opening, because I thought truths were given to people, they were written down in textbooks and you memorized them and you did an exam and you topped your class. But after that exposure, he had taken an exam at Tata Institute at Fundamental Research. without telling us that it was exam. He gave it to us as a end of honors course exam, as it were, just for that. And it was actually an entrance exam to TIFR. And so we all did our little thing, about 30 of us, and then three of us got invited to interview. And we were all very surprised. What is this interview all about? And he took us to TIFR. I was in Bombay. And it looked like, to someone who was your age, felt like a tribunal. There were four people, all very Ken looking, senior and impressive and knowledgeable, sage like people. And there you were. I mean, with no idea what was going to happen next. And they asked questions, and it felt sort of scary. At the end of which they said, "Would you like to come join the lab?" And that's how I ended up in Ubaid Siddiqui's lab, who was then the head of the molecular biology unit, um, sent to TIFR by none other than Niels Bohr, um, who recommended him to Homi Bhabha. So that's why I started my summer experience. And it was an amazing experience. Transformative is a word that is often used for all sorts of things, but it truly was transformative. I was on a different path in my career, and that experience of being able to do science, to be able to think about things, to read about other people's work, and get a view behind the curtain really changed my life. Years later, 20 years later to be precise, I was relating this to Ken Shapiro, because I had students from the A-Star program from Singapore. And I said, oh, we should do this with India. It changed my life. Look, here I am. And he said, let's do it. This is the Ken Shapiro you're going to hear from next. He was the associate dean. I was just in Sachi Mittal's stage. I had just started my career. I was moving along, trying to get papers, grants from NSF. And so it's interesting to have all these players here today. So wrote a grant to NSF saying that I would like to start an educational program of this kind, which was based on a program, a very successful program that NSF has called the Research Education for a Research Experience for Undergraduates, especially undergraduates that come from environments where there isn't a research ecosystem around them. I said, we'd like to do an REU type program with India, and got some of that funding. But Ken and I went to India. We went to 7 cities, had 51 meetings in 17 days. And that's how the Khorana program was born. And we came back and he gave me some money. He said, let's do a pilot. I said, what do you do? How do you get money? And he said, I have some under my, what do you call it, Ken? Your coffee can under your bed or your pillow for exactly these kinds of projects. So that was 2007. We brought three students as pilot students. Pioneer students, we call them, Pioneer Khorana program students, because I was then at the University of Wisconsin. And in my department, Gobind Khorana had won the Nobel Prize for bringing chemistry to, of course, synthesize DNA, decode the genome, and do the first steps of chemical biology, synthetic biology in the 60s. Now, the buzzwords of today were done 50 years ago. And so to honor him, we called it Khorana program. We wrote to Gobind. I'd met Gobind when I was at MIT. And Gobind was very modest and very excited to have this started. And we also wrote to Ubaid, and Ubaid said that he would prefer that it were named Gobind Khorana's program. And so that's how we started. We got three students. We encountered all sorts of red tape. And Ken was amazing at sort of navigating me and the program through those early turbulent years. Many flights later, we had the support of Indo-US Science and Technology Forum. At that time, the director was Arvind Mitra, who enthusiastically joined us, and we had the first batch of 15 students that arrived at Wisconsin. And Parmeshia, who was then the chair of electrical engineering and a rising star in the College of Engineering, um, helped identify some of the best students from various. He read through 100 proposals to pick out 10, of which we got 7, as the balance to biology, and then what was later to become the Bose program in 2013. And then 2013, that people like Sachi showed up with engineering degrees and engaged in the program. So this group, and I'm so glad to see your faces, to have interacted with you in early 2020, has gone through extraordinary conditions. We have experienced a pandemic of the kind that hasn't been seen in 100 years, right? And there were many sacrifices made, many large sacrifices, personal sacrifices, many small sacrifices, but many disappointments, and this group has persevered through it all. I remember the early days when we were discussing how we might bring you to your intended internship sites later in the summer of 2020, winter of 2020, early 2021, and you have persevered. You've been positive about this. I can imagine just, when I place myself in your shoes all those years ago, how challenging, trying, and disappointing this must be, right? And yet you have persevered. And what you have done through it all, um, you have educated us, you've educated me and my colleagues at One Step Forward, and how, and we've experimented with you on what works, what doesn't work, how might we bring content to you guys so you can have the same experience, the same magic that I experienced of being in the lab and doing experiments and trying to address questions that you might have about a biological or physical phenomena, or to understand how you might design something. So you've taught us not only how to do virtual education, which is, that existed all along, we've just learned how to use it better, but how to do experiential learning. How does one experience being in a lab, being around a community of scholars trying to answer a question, having that active debate and serendipitous moments of clarity, those epiphanic moments where you suddenly realize how something works? It is this group with whom we have experimented, and I don't think we have the perfect solution, but you've made something that seemed unlikely, impossible, and something that would have been dismissed out of hand by various people, including myself. You made us realize that there is a path, perhaps, to virtually, imparting that experience. And we will be working on this. And the next 10 years, as I said, at the end of 2020, is going to be focused on how we deliver virtually the content that one might get through experiential learning, learning by being, learning by doing something in a given environment. And I believe that will usher in a new era of education, much like Gobind Khorana brought in a new era in chemical biology and synthetic biology by bringing chemistry to biology. And in that sense, I think this particular group is a group of pioneers. You have pioneered a new way of conveying or imparting this sort of information. You've revived, I think, in some sense, the Khorana program. Despite the hiatus this year, we haven't brought any scholars this year. The first time in 15 years, this would have been the 15th year of the Khorana program. You are the 14th group, starting from 2007, when Ken gave me that money from under his pillow in his coffee can. So in recognition of your pioneering status, in recognition of the challenges that you have faced, the unprecedented challenges that you have faced, some of it personal, I know some of you contracted COVID, had personal family members um, go through this. Through all this you have come through, you're here today, and you are our hope for the future, much like Sachi. She's starting her career exactly where I was 20 years ago. In recognition of this, we have some of the pioneers of the program who helped launch the program: Ken, Parmesh, IUSSTF embodied through Nandini, and people like Renu Swarup, who is the director of DBT. I don't know if she's going to be able to join because internet can be quite finicky when you're trying to do these things across the globe, and potentially Dhananjay Tiwari. So all of these people are going to speak with you. These are the people that helped me work with the Khorana program, build the Khorana program. And I'd be remiss if I were not to acknowledge Navida Kadir, who is the executive director of SF Forward, but also my partner in life, who's persevered through all sorts of up and downs and flights to India for 24 hours or less, running to the airport just in time to catch a flight, picking me up just in time to bring me back to give a lecture, all of that. And then creating One Step Forward to be able to take Khorana program, Bose program beyond the University of Wisconsin to every university in the US. And this is the year that Sachi came, 2013. So once again, I thank Navida and I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Asim. As Asim was saying, our next speaker helped him found the Khorana and Bose programs. Dr. Ken Shapiro was at that time the Dean of the Agricultural and Life Sciences College at UW-Madison. And so he will speak to us now. Thank you. Thank you, Ken, for joining us.
Thanks, Navita. Can you hear me well enough? Can you
Yes,
hear me,
we can hear
Navita?
you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. At my age, I don't trust technology as much as the rest of you do. So I'd like to start by congratulating all the Khorana Bose Fellows. Your selection indicates that you've done very well in your studies so far, and you show great potential for a career in science. I also want to congratulate Winstep, Asim Ansari, Navita Kader for the advancement of Khorana Bose since that ancient history when I was involved. And I need to note for you fellows that you're now sort of the heart of this connection of young scientists connecting the United States and India.
The green behind me is a Putin bullet train.
Okay. So I want to expand on what Navita and Asim have said about the start of the Khorana Bose program. So as bright undergraduates, maybe you learned about the program early in your studies. Maybe your professors told you about it. Maybe there was an announcement on a bulletin board, or however. But maybe you thought it was just part of the landscape, the academic landscape, just like DBT or IUSSTF. But of course, programs like this are not written into the mission statement of any of those organizations. They have to be added as an enhancement, as an enrichment. And I'd like to discuss that history of the creation, and not because some of you are going to get involved doing something similar, although you might, but because it bespeaks a process and mechanism that I think will be important to you as you mature as scientists. So how did all this get going? How does one of these program ideas become a living program? And my short answer is networks and cooperation. You're already part of an excellent network, the network of Khorana Bose scholars, strong people, as Asim said, powerful people, and you're part of that. And as your career progresses, as you get beyond just maybe you'll need to join another laboratory. So a Khorana Bose scholar elsewhere might be able to give you advice as to whether or not that professor is someone that you want to stake your career on. Maybe you want funding for a new project. Another Khorana Bose fellow might be able to guide you to some new funding sources. Things like this give you an indication of why you need to reach out beyond yourself, beyond your professor, to a network that can help you as you progress in your career. So how did this all work for the Khorana program? Well, it started, as Navita has said, with an idea from Asim Ansari. He thought that it would be beneficial to both India and the United States to have linkages among scientists, among young scientists. And he saw a similar program elsewhere, and he asked the question, how would this work? Is this something that we should consider for India? Would it be valuable? Would students and professors and governments want it? How would it work? Who would pay for it? Now, we all know that Asim Ansari is very smart, but even he could not answer all those questions. So he turned to his networks. And first he turned to an administrative network. And he started at the top with the chancellor of the University of Wisconsin. He asked him about this, and the chancellor said, don't talk to me, go talk to Shapiro. He's had a lot of experience with international programs. So Asim came to me and we started conspiring. And the first thing we did was reach out to another network, a network of alumni through the UW Alumni Association with Kim Santiago, who was director of the international alumni programs. So this was our first network, and it's what I would call an administrative network. Now, some of you, especially the more mature scientists, may have a negative image of administrators, because administrators, part of their job is to tell you what you cannot do. But some administrators, a lot of administrators have a member can have. So if you want to reach out, an administrator may be helpful. And administrators have what I see referred to as coffee cans. So the coffee can theory of developing new programs is one that I ascribe to. Coffee cans with money in them. Now, as a middle-level administrator, I had my own coffee can with a modest amount of money. But the chancellor had the biggest coffee can of all. So having enlisted the chancellor's support, not only would we have access to his coffee can, but so that is what got us started. But what about the faculty side? I mean, as a former administrator, I know you all agree that administrators are just wonderful people, but faculty are important also. Okay, you'll excuse my sarcasm. So what about the faculty at Wisconsin and in the United States? So for this, we turn to the network, especially this network that Asim Ansari had developed, faculty members across the campus. And I would call this a good network in that they were willing to listen. They knew Asim, they trusted him, and they were willing to confer with him to talk about a new program. Did they have suggestions? Did they think it was a good idea? What were the pitfalls? Several meetings, and one indication of the strength of that network is that they were willing to come to the meetings. Many faculty members are busy, didn't offer them food or tea or coffee, but they came nonetheless to share their ideas. And what about in India? So we started with scientists in India who had gone through the University of Wisconsin as part of their education. And they were quite happy to welcome us and talk with us about their contacts. And one of those contacts was a key minister. And our alum who was close to that minister was able to get us in to see the minister. And as you go through your career, you'll realize it's not very easy to get to see a minister. Yet this minister was able to see us because of our connection with work was working for us. As Asim said, we had our first visit to India to start talking with people back in 2008, and lots of visits in a very short time. But it helped us get connected and stay connected with the network in India. We were able to build the Khorana network while we were in India, and that had us reaching out to the Department of Biotechnology, to IUSSTF. It also connected us with the Mahindra and Mahindra in the private sector and with the Rajiv Gandhi Charitable Trust. And these helped us develop. Back in the United States, we kept close contact with our network of scientists, and as progress was made in India, they saw that this program really had a chance of thriving, and they stepped forward and volunteered their time, willingness to mentor students and even provide some stipends. And at the same time, in India, we were getting these kinds of responses from those whom our networks had connected us to. So the last word about the process is what I would call cooperation. There's lots of good ideas out there, but will people really step up and join with you? And they'll do this if they see that this is a part of a cooperation, that if they'll help you, you'll be able to help them. It's not in a quid pro quo sense, but rather you build a relationship of trust that if you're going to reach out to folks in your network, they know that they can trust you to help them. So in the interest of time, let me conclude and say that I want to encourage you, but take the time to build that network, make it even stronger. get to know the other Khorana Bose fellows, participate in whatever gatherings there may be on Zoom or Facebook or in person, become part of the network and make it stronger. And, you know, there's an old saying that as you sow, shall ye reap. Take the time to participate, build the Khorana Bose network, and it will pay them and beyond. So I turn it back to Navita and Asim. I thank you and I wish you good luck.
Thank you, Ken. I remember traveling to India with Ken and Asim. We were there for quite a few weeks, and Ken trekked all over India. He saw everything. He attended all the meetings, and he was able to hold it better than Asim and I were. I remember that.
Let me add a comment since you're getting personal, Navita. When we got started, one of our first visits was to IIT Kanpur. And we took the night train from Delhi to Kanpur. And among the many memories I have of that night train was that I spent most of the trip holding a little baby. That baby was handed to me by the young couple across the aisle, and they were taking care of their other children. But they had no qualms about reaching over and saying, "Here, please hold our baby." I thought it was a minute or two. It turned out to be a couple of hours, but it taught me a good lesson. In India, everybody is responsible for raising children. And that's a lesson that we could learn more in the United States as well. But I appreciate that lesson coming from colleagues in India. So back to you, Navita.
Yes, it was an amazing trip. And as Ken was saying, that it's great to have an idea, but you need partners. You need partners who can take that idea and turn it into reality. You need cooperation. And we found that cooperation in IUSSTF. We found that partner in IUSSTF. Dr. Nandini Kannan is the executive director of IUSSTF. And Nandini, I will hand it over to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you, Navita, and thank you, Asim. Thank you, Ken, for that wonderful introduction about the program. So I will confess, and I'll lay this on the table, I've had very little to do with the program's success, but it's really great to hear the history of the program. I've had several conversations with Asim, and it's so nice to see so many young and excited faces in the audience. And of course, Shachi, for you represent the team that's gone through this program and is off doing great things. So congratulations. So first, I'd like to say congratulations to this 2020 cohort of the Khorana and Bose scholars. I know you would have wished nothing more than to have the opportunity to be in the United States at the chosen university and having an in-person experience. But you know, the world has changed. So March of last year, who would have thought that we would be facing, as Asim said, a pandemic, the likes of which we haven't seen in 100 years. This is the Spanish flu in 1918. So it's something that we didn't expect in our lifetime, and unfortunately, for so many of you and so many millions of students around the world, it's been disruptive. It's caused anxiety, and I know it's been a struggle and it's frustrating. But you've persevered through all this, and if you've survived this, you can take on any challenge in your career as you move forward. I'll start with a quote, and then maybe I'll talk a little bit about IUSSTF's history with the Khorana program, and then I'll sort of, if people don't mind, wander off into talking about a couple of my favorite things on mentoring and global education. I'd like to start with a quote by someone who I think is was always one of the best speakers about science, Carl Sagan. It's a quote from him which says, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." And for a scientist, there's nothing more exciting to look in front of you and see if you can solve that unknown. So whether you're sitting in a lab or you're solving very complex equations, there's something incredible for you to do. And I know with the history of this program that you're all going to go on to do wonderful things, whether you end up being a scientist in a lab or whether you end up starting your own company. or you end up like me in another life being a policy person. The world is your oyster, so you have to just go and enjoy it. I know this year has been frustrating, but I'm hoping that the resilience you've shown, you'll continue to show, because there are going to be many, many more challenges you'll face in your career, but you've faced this with such poise that it bodes well for your future as scientists. I'm going to wander off a little. I'll talk about IUSSTF. It's great to hear Ken, Asim, and Navida talk about IUSSTF's role in helping the Khorana program, from Asim's brain to Ken's coffee can to actually becoming a program that's now 15 years old and has produced so many wonderful alumni, and you are now part of that network. So our organization, sits in this unique spot as a binational. We're funded by the two governments to really bring together Indian and US scientists. And I think programs like the Khorana really are opportunities for us to understand how science is done in each other's country. So for all the Khorana scholars and the Bose scholars, you have the opportunity to learn how research is done in the United States. And you get to take that energy, the enthusiasm, the learnings back to your own institution, back to your friends. And hopefully you've started to build the network that Ken talked about. So it's something that I'm going to come back to again and again, the importance of keeping networks. And all kinds of networks. It doesn't just have to be the network you build with the Khorana scholars. It's networks at your own institution. It's networks that, with people in different social clubs, your family. So these are networks that will sustain you through your life. So IUSSTF, I think, was approached by Asim and Ken because we have the ability to work with agencies on both sides and organizations on both sides. So I think with Asim's contacts and, especially to people within the Department of Biotechnology, as well as the Indian government, it really takes a village, and more than a village, to build one of these programs. So thanks to people like Ken and Asim, this idea was taken forward by the Department of Biotechnology, and then we came in to help write the grant, get the money, and that's how the IUSSTF involvement has been. So we've seen the growth of the program over the years, and I just had the opportunity to review 15 years worth of data recently. It's fascinating to see where the students have gone, right? So for all of the 2020 cohort, there really is a huge world out there. Even if you have a research experience, some of you will go on to do PhD, some of you may go on to medical school, some of you may go on to careers in industry where you're doing STEM research, some of you may end up in business programs. Whatever it is, this experience is unique. It helps to, and I think it makes you a lifelong scientist. I think that's the goal of these programs, to give you that exposure, to help you understand, like Asim did with one of his professors at St. Xavier's, what can research do, right? So much of our learning is in the classroom, where we are passive listeners. There's somebody at the board, I think all of you can relate, who's writing, and then you're copying notes feverishly, and then trying to memorize a lot of content, but really not understanding the process that went into those beautiful equations or those beautiful results. So one thing a research experience like this does is it really opens your eyes to, how scientists like Hargobind Khorana or Satyendranath Bose really were thinking outside the box. Right? They didn't let the books limit their imagination. They were thinking of, Bose was thinking of bosons, and he was a polymath. So he understood the interactions between mathematics and physics. And, he was always reading. So part of research is that excitement, knowing that even though what you read in the book is something you will need for your exam, it's understanding how all of that came to be and asking questions. So I think one of the things I would like all of you to take away from these experiences, knowing that asking questions is not bad. It's the only way you will push, and only way you will find something incredible and waiting to be known. So that's some encouragement for you. I'll also talk about how international experiences. So if you look this past year, it's something incredible we've seen in the midst of a pandemic. How many people, and if you go out and look at the research, how scientists around the world have come together, right? We saw this pandemic coming in March, and it just galvanized the scientific community. We had people who were developing vaccines in labs. We had people who were looking at supply chains. You had the entire global scientific community coming together to solve some of these very, very difficult problems that COVID sort of set up for us. Vaccine development, therapeutics, trying to develop new drugs, trying to look at how we can use technology more effectively. Can we repurpose medicines like ivermectin to be a therapeutic for COVID? So all of this required a concerted effort of the global community. And if you go look at the number of collaborations that resulted out of COVID-19, you just have to go, this very nice graphic, and I'm happy to share this with Eric and Navida afterwards, came out of the OECD. You can look at the explosion in the number of collaborative papers that happened during the pandemic. And I think that collaboration helped us to get to vaccines in record time. So, within a few months, you had 2 to 3 vaccines ready for phase 3 clinical trials. You had a whole lot more in the pipeline. And if you've read the research, vaccine development takes years and years. So what was different? It was the scientific community coming together and sort of forgetting about the boundaries between disciplines and the boundaries between nations. So that's what international collaboration does. It helps to bring together the best and brightest minds. It helps you to think differently. It brings people who have different perspectives to solve problems. So every one of you comes with a unique way of approaching a problem because of maybe your gender, your background, your upbringing. You see problems a very different way. And that's what we need. We need more diversity in science. We need people who think differently. And that's what accelerates discoveries in science. And so I'm a great believer. I started my early career in India. I went to the US and did a PhD. I've wandered through the academic life, and now, I've sat in funding and sort of science policy. And it's really incredible to see how much collaboration can really move the research forward. And the days of sitting in your lab somewhere and talking to the 2 other people in your lab who understood your research are long gone. This is a global community. So what you're doing, this year and getting that experience is becoming part of the global scientific community. And we're looking to you. You are, as Navida said, the power that's going to change the world. The other thing I want to bring up is the problems we face now, like COVID, require multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary research collaborations. It's no longer a biologist or a chemist sitting in their labs. It's a person like Asim who goes into different fields, talks about artificial intelligence, data mining. So we're all learning to apply tools from other disciplines and appreciate how much each of us brings to the table. So the big challenges ahead of us, like climate, like finding cures for diseases like cancer, or even finding, the next vaccine for the next disease, we need collaborations that cut across disciplinary boundaries. 20, 30 years ago, biology was a subject. Now you have something called chemical biology. You have cheminformatics, which combines, you had bioinformatics, which wasn't a field 20, 25 years ago. So as technology and science, the way we look at science changes, you're seeing disciplines evolve as well. So one of the things I would urge you is, even if you've got your degree in electrical engineering or chemistry, the world ahead of you, you're not restricted. In fact, I would encourage you to look to interdisciplinary research, look for ways you can collaborate. A lot of science is now teamwork. You would see it in labs. You have people representing different disciplines coming together. So some of the big science questions are going to require talented people who are willing to go outside of their comfort zone. So one thing as sort of incentive for all of you getting ready for the next phase of your career, if you're a chemist, go take a course in data mining, or if you're a mathematician, go take a course in biology. You don't have to understand every single detail, but you at least have to learn the vocabulary. And that's why people like Hargov in Khorana and S.N. Bose, they didn't care about boundaries. They went where their interests and where it took them, right? So they were willing to go read up new things. So that's something that now you have the internet. When we were growing up, there was no internet. Now you can just go Google something and you can find out and pick up a basic book and read. And the science of the future is going to require what we call lifelong learners. No longer can we sit back and say, the statistics I learned when I was a student many, many, many years ago is no longer what we would teach anymore. So we all have to adapt, including professors who've got their tenure. We still have to adapt to the changing needs of or what technology has done for us. So we all have to become lifelong learners. And whether, as I said, you go teach in a university or you start your own business or you go become an educator, we need all of the talent that's in this room and many, many more like you to really address the challenges that the globe is facing. It's not just India, it's not just the US, but it's the entire planet. So that's, again, a little bit of advice from my side. And I want you to think about mentoring as well. Asim, Navida, Ken, and Parmesh, you have 4 examples of people who've really put their money where their mouth is. They understand what it is, what they've gone through in their academic careers, what it means to struggle through an undergraduate, get into a research program. So at every stage of your life, look for mentors. And when you get to the stage of Shachi, we would love you to be a mentor, right? And I know you're already doing it, but these are the people you look for, role models who can inspire you, mentors who are there when you really need a little bit of help, someone to give you advice, what should I do in this difficult situation? So create that network. While you create your network of peers, look for people within your discipline, your institution, who can be a mentor for you, not just now, but for your entire life. And I think every one of us who's gone through 20, 30 years in science, we've all relied on mentors, our PhD advisors, someone who was on our committee, a fellow faculty member, a dean like Ken Shapiro, or a colleague in a different department. They help you. So build that network of not just peers, but also the network of mentors. It's something that will help you for the rest of your life. So those are sort of 3 messages from me: the importance of mentoring, interdisciplinarity, and also why international collaborations are critical. I think all of you have, you all have bright futures ahead of you. You've already shown that you are the brightest and the best. We wish you the very best. And I'll leave with a quote from Abdul Kalam, as one of the most inspirational men that the world has ever seen. It's very sweet. It says, dream, dream, dream. Dreams transform into thoughts, and thoughts result in action. So wish you all the very best. And thank you so much to Asim and Navida for inviting me today.
Dr. Kanan, thank you for those wonderful words of inspiration to the scholars. What Dr. Kanan was saying is exactly true. Many times we see science is always playing in the background in our societies. But the past few years, we've seen it on the forefront. We've seen scientists, we've seen doctors. They've been, in the news every day, all the time. So scientists truly, truly, truly make a difference, and they're going to be extremely, extremely powerful in the future. I would like to introduce Dr. Parmesh Ramanathan.
I'll quickly jump in.
Yes.
I wanted to thank Nandini and Ken as well for bringing up these points. These are very important points. Networking, maintaining relationship cross-disciplinary engagement, and then asking questions, right? I just wanted to add to all of this, saying that it is not that far from when you will be in a position to make that difference. Sachi, in 8 years, is already at a place where she's going to be a mentor. And the person that Ken was referring to, one of the UW alumni who helped introduce us to the then Minister of Science and Technology, is in fact the fellow who's created one of these vaccines at Bharat Biotech. Krishna Ella was the person who introduced us. And he was a plant pathologist. He studied plant pathology, and he's created India's homegrown indigenous vaccine. Right? It is that close. Krishna is 10 years older than me. Sachi is 20, 30 years younger than me. But you can see that it takes one person with the passion and a sense and a network, a village, if you will, as Ken put it. And you can change the world. Right? It is not that, how do you put it? Ephemeral thought. It's real. You can make this happen, and you are the future that can make this happen.
Thank you, Asim. Dr. Parmesh Ramanathan is a professor of electrical and chemical engineering at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He has hosted several Bose scholars in his lab, and he is a friend of the Khorana program. He's a close friend and collaborator to Dr. Ansari. Dr. Ramanathan, it's good seeing you again, and thank you for speaking to us today.
Thank you, Navita. I hope people can hear me.
Yes, we can hear
I
you.
forgot my earphones in my office yesterday, so speaking on speakers, and there's a lot of background noise here, so I hope the noise is not cluttering my words. So I've had the fortune of being involved in it, I would say, at the start, but not quite the start of the program. And I had the most easy task, right? I mean, because when Asim came to me, he had a very simple offer to me, right? I mean, he had already worked out the details of getting the money and getting the students and finding the students and so on. He just told me a simple thing, proposition. Here are these students, would you want to work with them? Right? As a professor, that is the easiest thing to do, right? I mean, to be able to offer you the opportunity to work with the best students, I mean, it's like a dream come true, right? So I was fortunate enough to be able to work with so many bright young students like you from India who made a big difference. I mean, I remember first or one of the early Khorana Bose scholars who came, spent just 8 weeks in my lab, but changed my research directions completely. So I'm another one whom I'm still collaborating with 12 years, 13 years from now, since then. Right? These were the early Bose scholars who worked with me. Right? So you guys have the potential to make a lot of difference in a lot of things. And I was fortunate enough to work with many of you, and I hope I will get a chance to work with many of you. This, unfortunately, in 2020, I did not get a chance to interact with most of you here and in this group here, but I know, I mean, it has been my luck to be able to be involved with Khorana Bose program for all these 15 years. When I got the email from Winstep about a week ago about say something, I thought to myself, what should I say, right? And what I thought of was what I wanted to say, Ken just stole it from me. I mean, right? I mean, I think he read my mind and he just stole it, or maybe he hacked my computer. He said he's not good in technology, but maybe he hacked my computer, right? I mean, the key point I wanted to make was the biggest thing you can get from this group is the network, right? The network of people. I think that is the biggest asset you have. I mean, even in the educational institution, you get knowledge, big foundation, you bring the foundation. But we are all in a field of science where things change rapidly. What you learn today is obsolete in 5 years, 10 years. But the connections you're going to make with people is going to last you a lifetime. And those connections will come in handy for rest of your life, right? And so I think Ken Shapiro put it really, really well. And he gave you so many examples of how the network helped launch this program. And I've seen that over and over and over again in my career of how I have to rely on my networks for my own success. So take advantage of the connections that you have built here, or you can build here from these people here. And you will need them. You will definitely need them. I mean, and people who take advantage are able to exploit their networks are the ones who are successful, right? Because as Dr. Kannan just mentioned, in order to solve the problems of the world, right, you need connections. You cannot do it on your own. You need connections from in a variety of ways, both to find the problems, get the money, we find that administrator, whatever it is, right? I mean, even if you know what problem needs to be solved, solving the problem requires lots of help from a lot of people. And so take advantage of this network that you have, this opportunity that you have, the connections that you have built through this program. Make friends. If you have not, I know many of you probably did not have the opportunity to meet each other. Probably most of you did not have opportunity to meet each other in person this year. Otherwise, in the past years, I mean, people would come here, stay in dorms, stay together, cook together. For the first time, learn to cook away from the parents or from their hostel food, right? I mean, they've been either had their mom fed them or the hostel mess, right? I mean, first time came here, bought groceries and cooked in a dorm here in Wisconsin, Madison, or some others in other universities, and formed a team, right? And that opportunity you did not get. But the other aspect that you have to succeed is not what you went through, what you did with what your experiences are. So you did not get those opportunities maybe, but you will succeed based on what you can do with the opportunities that you got, right? And what you did in this year, what you did in this program, or what you have done so far. If you are able to communicate that to others, it will go a long way in your success, right? So it is like when you're given a lemon, as people say, make a lemonade, or what you did with a lemon. Even if you don't make a lemon, you could make a pickle, lemon pickle. You could make a lot of things with it, right? Or you could take the seed from it, plant it, and get a new tree, right? I mean, what you do with that lemon is what matters, right? And don't agonize over what happened last year. It has been a challenging year. It was a frustrating year. I'm sure it was, right? I know you all had lots of plans, and those plans got scuttled by things beyond what we haven't even dreamed. I mean, once in a lifetime events that scuttled your thing. But I think as you go forward, think about what this year taught you, what you learned from this year. I mean, you may have been through very hardships and you have been here, you have succeeded, the year is over, right? And so convey that. And I think you people will recognize and value those experiences that you have had in this year and this challenging year, and how you overcame those challenges. Those are going to be very valuable for you as you go forward in your career. And another thing, or the lack of, because gray hair or lack of hair allows me to tell you, I guess, and give you guys advice about being a scientist, right? I is aim big. Do not hesitate to aim big. As big as you can, right? Because it is those goals that will help you keep you going every day. There will be quite a bit of hard times and challenges day in and day out, right? Even your experiments won't work, those kinds of things. But as you think about
Recording in progress.
So it is those big goals that can keep you motivated through these challenges. But those goals are just to get you direction, right? I mean, do on a day-to-day basis, do what you enjoy. I mean, do the things that you enjoy. I mean, I've been fortunate that I've been a faculty member for 30 years. And one of the best things I've done is every single day, I want to go to work. I want to go to the lab. I want to go and discover, right? And that is, do what you feel passionate about, what you want to do, right? If you like academic career, absolutely, it's been a joy for me. If you want to be an entrepreneur, that is great too. I mean, because science, I mean, it's the many part. It's the discovery, conversion of that discovery to technology, converting the technology to society, impact of society. All of these part of our science. I mean, yeah, those the basic fundamentals of mRNA and all of those things, right? And even the theory of mRNA vaccines are all developed by scientists in labs in their minds and so on. But the impact was made when they were able to convert that theory into practice and practice vaccines within a short period of time when it was needed. Right? So there is many components here for success. Do what you feel passionate about. Right? Whatever gives you joy. If you find joy in going to the lab and doing experiments and getting negative results day in and day out, and for the occasional positive result once in 3-4 years, do so, right? I mean, and it would be, I mean, I don't want to quote conducting those science is a frustrating process. So you will have lots and lots of frustrations, right? If you are thrilled by interacting with people and converting science to society, do that. Do what you enjoy, right? Do not follow a prescribed goal. It is good to hear other people's advice, good to hear what they have to say, what they did, but ultimately do what you are passionate about. Because when you are passionate about something, you will have impact. You will be successful and you will do well, right? And eventually, don't worry about the success. Just do what you're passionate about. Success will come to you. So with those words, I will stop here and give it back to Navida. I hope to see most of you somewhere along, interact with you. Do not hesitate. If you need any help, do not hesitate to contact me. All right. And I think before I give one more thing, I want to tell you. I mean, I know Dr. Kannan said, take advantage, form a mentor, use the mentor. I also want to say the biggest joy also comes from being a mentor. So as you be a mentor. Be a mentor to somebody. It is a very, very rewarding. So as you progress, you will have many opportunities to mentor somebody. Be a mentor. That is one of the easiest ways to feel joy in your work. All right, so with that, I'll give back to Navida.
Thank you, Dr. Ramanathan. And he has been an amazing mentor to Khorana and Bose scholars all these years of the program. And as he was saying, one of the very first Bose students he had, I think in 2007, all of us are still in very close contact with that Bose scholar. He moved back to India. He came back to UW-Madison, did his PhD with Asim and Parmesh. He got married, moved back to India. He has a child. Now he's well established in his career. I think he's chosen to start a company, a data analysis company. And Parmesh and Asim still have close collaborations with him. They work with him now. And I'm also still in contact with him. Quite often we email each other. So as you know, and our next speaker, Dr. Shachi Mittal. She's also one of the first scholars, and we've always stayed in touch with her. after she finished the Khorana program, you know, we kept in touch with her, you know, what are you doing now? And she would inform us, hey, I'm doing this. She would talk to Asim, um, seek his mentorship. And now she's a mentor. She mentors Khorana, the incoming batches of Khorana Bose scholars. And now she's an assistant professor. She just recently, Shachi was a 2013 scholar. She studied at UIUC, did her internship there, University of Illinois, Chicago. She also received her PhD from there. And now she is an assistant professor in, I believe, the chemical engineering department at the University of Washington, Seattle. Shachi, congratulations. We're so happy for you. We're so happy to see you in the position you are in now. And I will open the floor to you.
Thank you so much, Namida, and thank you so much, everybody who've formulated this program, because I think this program is the foundation to what we have achieved in our lives and in our career. So I just wanted to share how this program has molded me over the years and helped me achieve whatever I have achieved, and even think about whatever I have achieved. So in 2013, I was selected as a Khorana scholar. And at that time, I wanted to be a social entrepreneur. My love for science was more intellectual and more for curiosity. And I always had this passion of doing something for the society. And somehow I couldn't connect the two. I somehow thought that they are different. But when I came here as a Khorana scholar, through orientations, listening to so many speakers, Asim, Dr. Suresh Chandra, I still remember all those presentations. They're etched in my brain. And that's where I was like, social entrepreneurship and research, they can be connected. And that's where my intellectual love for science and my passion actually got connected. And I knew right at that very moment, even before I had begun my internship, that I would be doing a PhD, and this is where I want to be. And the program was so structured. Every single day I would feel so excited and happy to go to the lab. As Dr. Parmesh said, like, it was so clear to me that this is something that I can never be tired of. So I think that joy and passion for science, I first felt through the Khorana program. And secondly, I think from where I come from and from where most of you guys come from, I was a shy individual and I did not know how to dream big because I did not believe in myself that much. And I think Khorana program sparked that in me, where it kept on iterating the fact that there are so many people who are these big people. To me at that time, I was so scared to even reach out to Asim, Dr. Ansari. He's the big person who's leading the Khorana program. Knowing that these people believe in you actually sparked that confidence to start dreaming big, that I can actually go for a PhD in the United States. I can do this, I can do that. And I think that is what the Khorana program really gives you beyond the research experience, which is unique to the program. And the second thing is, in terms of networking that you guys have heard from a lot of speakers today, I think the Khorana program forms this family. I'm still in touch with every Khorana scholar that was there at UIUC and in other universities as well. And still today, like whenever we have issues, whether it be related to science, or we want to discuss about career opportunities, or we want to just talk to each other about visa related issues, we are all a text away and we are all an email away. And I think that is something that I wanted to tell you guys as well, that you might feel that we should probably not reach out to this person or that person, but we as Khorana scholars are really indebted to the program. And I do not think that there's going to be a single Khorana scholar whom you're going to reach out to for mentorship, for advice, for anything, and they will not want to get back to you. They might miss it because they might be busy at some given time or something. But I think every one of us have Khorana program as a very special part of our lives. And you guys and next Khorana scholars all of them also become a special part of our lives in that way. So reach out to any one of us if you have any questions, if we can help you in any way, because that is what we got. That is what Asim got, and he passed it on to us, and we got through the program, and we want to pass it on. And I think this is something that I would really like to say. And I'm also I'll put my email in the chat if you guys have anything that I can help you with. Uh, that's one thing. And I read my email that I wrote to Asim in August 2014, right after the program, as to how I felt about the program. And I remember the first paper, big paper that I got from my PhD, the one person that I wanted to write out to immediately was Asim. Because after that program, I was like, I just wanted him to feel proud of what they have done with us, or what they have made us capable of. And I think Khorana program in that way has been a really special part of my life, where it has taught me not only how to do good research, but also how to dream big, how to believe in myself, and how to not feel restricted, how to feel that I can achieve anything that I put my mind to. And this is something that I would like to share with all of you as well. And if we can help you in any way in that journey, I would be privileged and lucky to be able to do that through the program. Yeah.
Thank you, Shachi. Shachi actually is one of our mentors in the Khorana Bose mentorship program. She's an excellent mentor, and yes, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. And with that, I think we are, unfortunately, go ahead. Asim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, first I want to say, Sachi, you almost made me cry, and to all the people who started the program, Navida, Ken, Parmesh, when you were there at the beginning, what other reward could we possibly ask for? Nandini, through our USSTF, this is every 3 years when we renew the program, we are asked to show us evidence that this program is working. Sachi, I'm just going to put you in front of everyone. Every time the next round of bureaucrats ask me this question, and I'm just going to send you an email, please talk to her. I can give you statistics and numbers, which is what Nandini as a statistician demands that you create and think for good reason. But boy, what you just said right now, I did not know that is what you were going to say. And it really, really touched me. Thank you. Thank you. The thing that I actually interrupted Navida for was to say that during this Nandini's presentation, I got a call from India and from the embassy saying that there's something urgent that has just come up. So both Dr. Swaroop and Dhananjay Tiwari, and it was specifically Dhananjay Tiwari's person calling me up and saying that he was tied up and he could not come off that meeting. It's something to do with vaccines and potential waves of COVID. So they apologized. Dhananjay specifically said he will try to break from the meeting and come for a few minutes if he can, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But they send their support, and in case of DBT, they send their support in a very tangible way because Nandini and WinStep Forward, I'm not as engaged anymore, but WinStep Forward and Nandini are actively discussing the renewal of the program. When we started this, we had a 10-year horizon and 15 students per year. We have now done approximately 1,000 students, and every one of them is like Sachi. Right? Sachi is amazing. Everyone is amazing in their own right. So they send their thanks, and their engagement is evident from the funds that they're putting aside for this program going forward. With that, I'll stop. And Navida, back to you. Just to say that they wanted to come. They are tied up right now, and they couldn't break free.
Yes, thanks, Asim. Thanks for the update. And yeah, I would like to thank all of the speakers here today. You've heard how the Khorana program and Bose programs went from an idea to reality, and you need You need the idea generators coming together. You need the administrators coming together. You need the funding agencies coming together. You need all those parts to come together and work. And a lot of times it doesn't happen. A lot of programs fail. But we were fortunate enough, we were all fortunate enough to have the right pieces together, the right people come together to make this program happen. I want to thank Dr. Nandini Kanan and Pushpa Iyer. She has been also with the program since the beginning of it. I know you guys have been in close touch with Pushpa. Pushpa, thank you so much for being a wonderful partner on the other side. And I've appreciated your input and your collaboration throughout all these years. I think in closing, what I would like to say is that as all the speakers have said, these past few years have been so challenging on so many fronts. However, you will find that in life, the more challenges you successfully overcome, the more powerful a force you will become. And the more powerful a force you become, the more challenges you will be asked to overcome. Okay, these challenges that you faced here, you will see more and more in the future, the more successful you become, the more will be asked of you. And with a solid scientific background, you can solve so many of the problems that we already see on the horizon, that are already here. You are Khorana and Bose scholars. You always will be Khorana and Bose scholars. And as Dr. Shapiro stated, as Dr. Kanan stated, as Dr. Ramanathan stated, as Shachi stated, you will always be plugged into a very powerful Khorana Bose alumni network that will help you in the future. Thank you everyone for attending the 2021 Khorana Bose commencement ceremony. We wish you all the best. I want to thank all the speakers here today. And Asim has something else he'd like to say.
Sachi has her hand up.
Yes, Sachi, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted to add when you said in terms of the scholars this year have faced challenges and how they might think that whether this experience will be fully viewed as any other year's Khorana program. And I think from a perspective of being one of these scholars and now probably looking at students, trying to hire students, I think people believe in the Khorana and Bose program so much, and especially who know about this program, that even if it's virtual or if it's on site, if I see somebody who's a Khorana scholar, my view of them, my thought processes about them is going to be the same. So I just wanted to share this with all of you, that the big positives that the Khorana program brings in terms of the network, in terms of opening up new opportunities for you because you've been selected by a rigorous process, that is still going to be with you when people review you, people look at you, people try to hire you. They are not going to see whether it's just virtual. They are going to look at you as a Khorana scholar, and that's it. They will not see whether it was virtual or on site.
Yes, thank you, Shachi. What we are trying to say to you is that unfortunately, even though you were not able to complete your internships, and I just want to say that Eric and Manali and Dr. Kanan and Pushpa and I and Asim were constantly in touch throughout this past year and a half, trying to figure out ways, how can we get you guys over? When can we get you guys over? And we did try as many ways as we could, but like Shachi was saying, whether you came to the US to do your internship or not, you are Khorana Bose scholars, and this network will be valuable to you. It will be available to you, and you will need it in the future. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Dr. Shapiro, Dr. Ramanathan, Asim and I used to be at UW-Madison, but we left a few years ago, and it's so good to see Dr. Ramanathan, Dr. Shapiro. So wonderful to hear from both of you again. Good luck, everyone. Please reach out to us if you need us. Dr. Eric Horn, Dr. Manali Ghosh, you know, mentors like Shachi, we will be here for you. So the best to you. And that's the end of the ceremony. Thank you.
Can I have one last?
Yes.
I
Yes.
need the last word.
Yes.
I want to take a moment to thank Navida, even though she's my wife. I thank her every day, but I want to thank her in, in public, and the Winstep Forward team, Eric, Manali, Lexi, for working through. There's Eric, and you see Manali there, very talented individuals um, who have worked very hard to keep this program going through these last 18 months. And all the negotiations we've had with mentors, with students, addressing the disappointments of students, they've taken this, just it has been my privilege to work with this team. And also with our partners in India. Nandini has been amazingly accommodating and supportive, and working with Pushpa and the others in the team, Ashta and others, to try and find solutions in these extraordinarily unprecedented times, right? I mean, not to layer superlative on top of each other, but you get the true measure of the individual when they're faced with adversity. And over the last 18 months, I've been really privileged to see that how One Step Forward, IUSSTF, and DBT have tried to accommodate students and how students have tried to accommodate us. You hear about gaining a mentor is an important thing. I believe that you have been mentors to us, the entire team. For me, anyways, I speak personally now. I have learned from the team, I've learned from the partners, and most of all, I've learned from students in how knowledge cannot be blocked, curiosity, enthusiasm to learn cannot be stifled, right? You suggested options that we will explore. And one of the ones that will stay with me and we will bring to the governments, etc., is using things like virtual reality and augmented reality to give immersive training without leaving where you are, right? And scaling it in a way we could never do with Khorana and Bose. These were just random thoughts, when we started this early last year, around May last year. They are very quickly crystallizing into very tangible projects that will change the way we do these sorts of programs. So there's an example of where I have learned from this group of students and mentors, student mentors that have spoken during the last summer. The other thing I wanted to do is weave together some of the thoughts that Ken, Nandini, Parmesh, Sachi, and Navida have brought up. That of network. And one of the early Khorana scholars, network sounds almost like a business term, right? And we think of it in sort of clinical, sort of dispassionate, detached sort of ways. But network is what you live every day, right? Your family is your network. And one of the early Khorana scholars, she is now working at the Central Food Facility in India or something, some government agency that looks at food. She named it the Khorana Parivar, the family, the Khorana family. And that's what this is. This is a family. I think of Sachi as my daughter. I think of Ken as my mentor, Parmesh as my partner. And so it's become a network. His daughter's wedding touches me as much as you might imagine my daughter's wedding would. And Sachi's success is my daughter's success. So we become a family, we work with each other, and we inspire each other. This is what this program is about. It's about what Nandini said, dream, dream, dream. And to just paraphrase Abdul Kalam's next part of that comment, is that dreams are not what you have when you sleep. Dreams are what keep you from sleeping. And again, to bring Khorana into this, he would say, dream big. Don't let your goals be small, right? Dream big. And then go try to achieve it. And even if you fail, you will have done something interesting and important. With that, I would like to once again thank Pushpa, Nandini, the Winstep team, and our partners in DBT who wish they could have been here but were tied up with something that just came up in the last minute. And thank you, the students. Help us create a virtual education network that will impact thousands. We've done 1,000 in 15 years. We'd love to do many more, orders of magnitude more in the next 10. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.